Hello and welcome to another episode podcast. I'm Greg Migliore. Joining me today are our two senior editors on the phones from the West Coast. Alex Kierstein, how you doing?
Hi.
What's up?
Chilling, podcasting.
Podcasting. And you're on the left coast. Speaking of green things, senior editor John Snyder. What's going on?
Not a whole lot, just podcasting on a Friday.
I like podcasting on Fridays.
Yeah. I always like, right now it's like almost starting to feel like fall. It's kind of rainy outside here. It's a groovy vibe.
I completely agree with you. There was actually an article in the Free Press, Detroit Free Press yesterday about how it's kind of like fall. Mm-hmm. Like, come on, is it like slow news day here? It was like temperatures will be in the 70s. It's going to be cool at night, but a little warmer during the day. So, I mean, hey, whatever. But yeah, good time of year. And I think that brings us to our first vehicle, the Subaru Forester, which when I think of fall, I actually think of Subaru Foresters and Outbacks.
Yeah.
And Golden Retrievers and Seattle and Pearl Jam and Nirvana. These are the things I think about. We're going to get to that first, but just a quick rundown of the show. I drove the Navigator Platinum earlier in the week. Alex drove. What did you drive, Alex? I see a couple things here on the run sheet. Which ones did you drive?
Yeah, I mean, we can decide what we want to talk about. I drove a C43 Coupe and I drove a Crosstrek Hybrid. So if one of those jumps out to you and you guys want to debate on it or talk about it, dealer's choice.
Let's do Crosstrek Hybrid, but then since we said it, we might as well talk about it. Let's talk a little bit about the AMG C43. I've driven several C classes lately, so I think that's just a really interesting car to me. So we'll talk about that. We're going to run through some news hits, most of them from Frankfurt. Both you guys were involved in the Taycan revealed. It's a green car. I know, Alex, you did a lot of editing on that. We've got an electric Lamborghini, kind of cool.
Hybrid
Lamborghini. You're right. That's a good point. It does still have the V8. V12. Yeah, that's a Lambo hybrid right there. We'll electrify it, but yeah, we'll still give it like 700 plus horsepower. There is a new Nissan Juke, which is a little surprising, I think, actually. And then we'll wrap up news with the latest Aston Martin Vanquish designed by Ian Callum. I'm a little surprised that he kind of immediately started doing designs for Aston Martin. Mm-hmm. So, hey, that's cool. Good for him. We're going to talk about our stream. You hopefully watch our stream on Twitch that we do on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're going to bring the producer of the podcast, Erik Meyer, who, when he's not producing the podcast, he also streams video games. We're going to talk about WRC8, which is one of the most gorgeous video games I think I've ever seen.
It's pretty cool. Pretty
stunning. Hey, lastly, we're going to spend your money. It's a long one. By the time we get to this, I probably won't have any oxygen left, so we'll just try to skim through that, but get you some good answers. So Forester. John, you spent some time in it. Mm-hmm. I literally drove it to the office an hour ago. Nothing like a quick work from home Friday before it rains.
Yeah.
Let the dog get out a little bit more. She didn't get to ride in it, although she's a golden retriever.
I mean, that would be perfect photo opportunity.
Yeah, she could have done the podcast. Anyways.
I'm loving it, man. I'm loving this Forester. I drove it up north last weekend and back. Put a bunch of stuff in it. Put the car seat in it. I really like it. It's comfortable. It's a lot quieter than it used to be. Really good tech. Ours has the driver focus, which minds if you're paying attention to the road, but it also recognizes your face if you program that in, and it will set all your settings for you as soon as you get in the car, which is pretty cool. Nice. I don't have to adjust the seats and everything every time. I put a lot of highway miles on it, got just about 30 miles per gallon in it.
That's about what I got too, 29 point something.
The one thing when I was on the first drive for this, and I didn't really mind that it didn't have a turbo. It was a little sluggish maybe sometimes, but I was like, I could totally live without the turbo. When I'm on a 2-lane highway, coming home on Labor Day, when I have to actually pass people, it kind of sucks, man. You have to leave yourself a lot of room to get around people. It just sort of runs out of steam when you're trying to pass someone at 60 miles an hour, 65 miles an hour.
Yeah, I think the turbo would be a nice. I like the idea of the turbo. I think this is a little bit of a wheezy engine. It's fine. It's fine for around town driving.
Mm-hmm.
But last night I spent like 2 hours in this car, not going very far, but traffic was just so bad. And I was coming back, the sun was kind of setting. I was merging onto I-75, basically put it to the floor to kind of midstream hit traffic. There was not a lot of caution in my brain at that point. I just was like, let's go. And I'm with you. It didn't quite do what I would have liked. I mean, is it fine? Sure.
Yeah.
But
it's adequate. But
yeah, I mean, that's the best way to put it. Adequate.
But yeah, you definitely have to plan ahead for those moves. There's no quick decisions when you need to change lanes or get around someone.
I didn't set I will call it the spyware. What is it technically called?
It's driver focus with facial recognition. The driver focus, I don't think you have to program your face for it to, it'll monitor whether you're paying attention to the road. If you, look off to the side for 3 seconds. I was actually playing with it. I was turning my head a little bit to the side, but still looking forward, and I could trick it into thinking I was looking elsewhere. But it'll give you a little beep, a little reminder. But yeah, it recognizes your face. You can plug in your own nickname, and just have all your different various vehicle settings there for you as soon as you get in the car, which is kind of cool. And it's great for us since this car is going between a bunch of different people. Lots of our long-termers, every time you get in, you can't set the memory to something because someone will set something else over it. So you're always adjusting mirrors, adjusting your seat. And this, you don't have to do that with that. It'll just see you and tailor itself to you.
Cool. Yeah, I have not done it yet. One thing I like about the Forester and Subarus in general is they're pretty intuitive. The seats adjust. You can see out of the car pretty well. Infotainment is pretty decent. It's not my favorite, not my least favorite, but it's fine. There's a lot of knobs and buttons. So I think it's easier, and then especially when you get into Acuras and, just different cars that are a little more dense to try to sort of get your bearings. But so Alex, you didn't test one through a work setting, but I think you drove your sister's car. Is that right?
Yeah, my sister has a new one, cool. But it's pretty low spec, and I really only bopped around LA in it. Didn't get to do a full evaluation, but she had the previous model before that. She leased one, and so I kind of got a back-to-back experience having driven both her Foresters recently, and yeah, it is. Just like John said in his first drive, it doesn't seem like it would be as big of a difference just looking at the exterior sheet metal if it's not in the sport trim. Just a regular one looks pretty much like the old one, but man, it is so vastly improved inside. It drives so much better. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of the naturally aspirated engine. To be honest with you, I'm a Subaru owner. I love Subarus. I don't really like the FA series engines in any application. I mean, the one in the WRX, the turbo one, is okay, but I don't think they're as pleasant to use or as well tuned as the EJ engines were. Like the BRZ is a perfect example of that. Naturally aspirated FA20 tuned for being relatively sporty, but the stock tune is garbage. There's that big torque dip in the middle of the power band, and it just doesn't drive very well. And I've driven tuned FA20s. It's like night and day. So yeah, that's a long way of saying I agree. I don't think the engine's very good, but I also don't think any modern FA series Subaru engine is all that great. It's just not the most inspiring motor. But the rest of the car is fantastic.
Yeah, the new platform is really solid. It just worlds different in terms of refinement and quietness. The old Forester was really loud going down the highway, and a lot of old Subarus were. But now the things coming out on this new platform are a lot quieter and well mannered on the road too.
Yeah, I think it's we're going to have this one for a year, so we'll have, a lot of time to really talk about it, do some different things with it. Good car for fall. It's, I like it. I think, definitely seeing it in person and getting, a good sense of, just its sort of on-road demeanor, how it looks. I think seeing it in person, you do pick up more of the differences than perhaps in the photos you see. But yeah, nice car.
Yeah.
So moving along, I spent some time this week in the Navigator Platinum, which is a very large Lincoln. It is certainly nice vehicle. I enjoyed it. It's, I think the real spotlight feature here is just the interior. I mean, I think Lincoln is really getting the cabins right. I think the materials look pretty good. This one was kind of a light one inside.
I like that.
Yeah, I think it was good. I was a little worried about spilling stuff on it. Like my kid's car seat has a lot of cheddar goldfish crackers and things like that. But very, very nice interior. I mean, and it's huge. It is, you really, if you want something in this segment, you get a lot of capability. You get a lot of interior volume. You could put a ton of things in this thing. And I think Ford's done a nice job of, keeping this vehicle relevant for what it is. It's still cool. I mean, when you look at the Lincoln lineup, the Navigator is something that is a crossover vehicle in that, sports stars, celebrities, musicians, people drive this and think it's cool. It's still a status symbol in a way no other Lincoln is, and in a way, arguably, no other Fords really are too, outside of maybe the GT or the Shelby Mustangs. It's, it really has that sort of like, high level brand cachet that you don't see, generally with a lot of domestic cars. Yeah. So I think it's cool. It's a beast to handle, that's for sure. But I like it.
Yeah. I drove the Black Label version a while back, and it's such a nice place to spend time. Really good blend of modernity and sort of a classic, almost retro vibe. Really nice materials. Yeah, the interior design's excellent. But yeah, it's big. It's too big for my taste. I think I'd be more comfortable in an Aviator. I'm really looking forward to driving that. But I do agree that the Lincoln, when I see it in the parking lot or on the street, it's just so nice looking, despite not having a lot of detail in the exterior design. It's just kind of a soft box, but for some reason it just looks good. Maybe the proportions, the large swaths of flat sheet metal with cool exterior colors. It just looks really nice to me.
I think Lincoln's done a good job of sort of creating an aura around some of its vehicles, especially the Navigator. I think, they tried it with the Continental and they never quite got that right, I don't think. I think the car was pretty good. I think the design was good, but, it just didn't, it didn't quite match what it needed to be from an image standpoint. But I think they have it right with the Navigator. And, again, this one had everything. I think I called this Platinum. It was a Black Label.
Okay.
I think Platinum may be Cadillac, actually. I don't know where, need some more coffee or something. But yeah, this was a Black Label. Very nice vehicle, though. Again, had everything. And Black Label, I think, is a brand of Johnny Walker Scotch.
Yep.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, it is.
So I think it's reasonable for me to mix up the different labels and trims and things here.
There was one little detail in the Navigator that I thought was really neat. In the seatbelt buckles, like where you actually buckle it into.
Yeah. There's
a little light on there, so you can find the buckle at night.
Oh, that's nifty. Okay.
Yeah, it seems, way too far. You don't really need that, but it was just a neat example of the attention to detail inside this car.
Yeah, no, very nice. So moving along, let's quickly touch on, why don't we lead off with the AMG C43 and then, get more into the Crosstrek Hybrid, Alex. But
Sure.
Since we're talking luxury cars, and we've had a lot to say about the C-Class lately, what'd you think of this one?
Yeah, so it was a C43 coupe. So it had a comically small back seat. No one should be surprised, but I'm not huge. I'm 5'10", about 160 pounds, and I couldn't fit in the back at all, like for any period of time. And the other thing is, I went on one of the 43 cars launches, and I was just so unimpressed with the engine when that launched. This is when they switched from the Sport to then they were doing Mercedes-AMG the 43 range, and it was this kind of confusing time period, and they felt to me at the time as kind of inferior AMGs. Did you guys feel that way when you started driving the 43 engine cars, that they were not as special as the 63s or not sporty enough to be AMGs? Because that was the impression I had at the beginning.
That's sort of a debate we've been having here in the office a lot lately. As more and more cars get the AMG moniker, some of them just, it depends on who you ask, but some of them feel like they shouldn't make the cut. I think arguably, a lot of the 43s shouldn't, but I don't know.
The C.
Go ahead, Greg. Please.
I think it does come down a little bit to, what's under the hood. And I like the twin turbo V6. I think it's appropriate for, the C43. I think, it fits, but there's something about that engine, good as it is, it doesn't quite give me that AMG, like, really rip your head off kind of feel. They do all the right things, like they give enough chrome, they put the carbon fiber on there, you tick a bunch of options, and it can certainly look the part, I would say I'm on the fence of that it's like just barely an AMG, kind of like, and I don't know if that's what you want to do, to be sort of backing into AMG status. I think you want it to be like the AMG cars of our youth. I think we're all of like almost the exact same vintage here. Those things would rip your head off, and there was an aura, a mystique about them. I don't think there's a mystique about the 43 line. So, I mean, that's where I land on it. I mean, if you actually drive it, is it lovely to drive? Of course it is, and does it do a lot of things that I would like to do it with? And, if you look at the specs, are they as good as, I mean, they're better than some of the real AMGs, if you will, from 10 years ago. I mean, that V6 engine is very capable. So, I mean, I guess that's my take, is it's just kind of like just barely, if you will. I mean, it comes in at, I think I want to say 385, which is, that's a lot of horsepower, but, so yeah, kind of on the fence there, Alex.
The thing that I miss about AMGs is that they used to be really special. And I think part of the reason they were special is there wasn't an AMG line or three different levels of AMG. There was usually one AMG version. I grew up in the, late in the 90s and the early 2000s, the era of the 55s and then the early 63s where they were V8. And there was one flavor. There was the C43 that had, I believe, a supercharger. No, what did the C43? I think it had a V8. The one that Reese has. Do you remember what engine that has?
Ooh,
I don't.
That's a good question. Reese would know,
but he's not here right now. The 55s, the E55, a kid in my high school had one. I thought that was cool. I think they're hideous now, but the 4-round headlight E55 with a V8, best sounding V8. It sounds better than the 63, which I like better. And then there were the early 63 cars, but the 43 just seems like a budget AMG, and that's an oxymoron. And sure, it does everything it should. It's got plenty of power, all-wheel drive. It looks pretty good. It was comfortable. My wife loved it. I mean, but it's like checking too many boxes. I want something a little more focused. And maybe that's just nostalgia from when cars could do one thing well and everything else was a compromise. But I miss that focus. I miss this was the thing the car did, instead of, well, if you want, you can just cruise around with it in quiet mode, or you can push 4 buttons and suddenly it's a screaming monster. It just, I don't know. None of those things is satisfying if it can do all of them to me. that was a mini rant, but like, does that make me like an old guy yelling at the clouds? Probably, but you know, I miss single purpose things with focus, and they were optimized for that one thing.
Well, you're in a chorus of old guys yelling at clouds here. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to become a generational thing too. Like eventually, and we're not that old, but I mean, eventually we're not like at the stage where we're talking about us dying off, I hope, but it's like, you know, enough time passes and like younger folks start to just think, well, the idea of how we're framing AMG really starts to fade to the background. And they're like, well, the C43 is an AMG. So sure, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. How about we move along to the Subaru Crosstrek Hybrid? Interesting vehicle. We've talked a lot of Subarus here, but this is a compelling one. Alex, what did you do with it?
I ran all over town, mostly in EV mode, and I was trying to drain the battery, but you know, I live in kind of a dense suburb, so if you're not getting on the freeway, it's actually pretty hard to go 17 miles. I had to run a lot of errands to drain the battery, but yeah. So my take is it feels like a first try, and I don't say that's a totally bad thing. But, you know, Subaru doesn't have a whole ton of experience with electrified platforms. And at least, yeah, I mean, I think this is their first U.S. market hybrid. Is that correct, John? I can't recall a previous
plug-in hybrid, yeah.
Yeah. That's right. And it's called hybrid, but it's a plug-in hybrid, which is why it's a little confusing.
There was the old Crosstrek hybrid that was just a regular hybrid.
That's correct. And that one had sort of disappointing fuel economy. It sort of seemed like it wasn't really worth it. So this one, in my opinion, on paper is really good. And where it fell apart a little bit for me is the actual real world experience of it. It felt a little unpolished. The biggest gripe is that there's no cargo area at all. The cargo area like would fit maybe 2 briefcases. It's minuscule, and it just completely, in my opinion, neuters the utility of the vehicle. You still have 4 seats or 5 seats, and you know, it gets good fuel economy, and the EV range is fine. But you know, I popped up underneath it, and in my opinion, the reason the cargo area is so compromised isn't because the battery pack is huge. It's because they put a giant transverse muffler up under there. And I don't know why that is, or why they weren't willing to alter the rear shell, but like, I'll send you guys a picture later. Maybe we can put it in the post or something, but I would have spent the engineering money to lower the rear cargo area, to put the battery pack in, to give the consumer more of that rear area. It's a reason we didn't buy one when we walked into a Subaru dealership expecting, when we were out shopping for a car for my wife, we were expecting to walk out with a plug-in hybrid Crosstrek. And we ended up with the Leaf, because the Leaf has 1 million times more usable cargo space. Well, obviously not 1 million, but a serious real-world difference in usability. So, what do you think, John? I know you spent time with the car.
The rear cargo area didn't really bother me that much. The shape of that little step up where the battery is kind of awkward. But I was able to manage quite well, fitting a lot of stuff back there. I could totally live with it, but you're right. It seems like they could have and should have done something to fix that. It just seems like an oversight. But other than that, I really, really like that car. I could see myself owning one for sure. Yeah, 17 miles, it doesn't sound like a lot on paper, but gosh, I mean, that's a lot of driving. That's, you know, the average commute for an American. And even if you do dip into your gas a little bit every time you travel, I mean, you're still saving a ton. And yeah, I drove it. It feels like a proper Subaru. It's good. in soft roads, on rocky roads, you know, in the snow and wet. It's a real, if you're afraid that it's not going to feel like a Subaru, that's not what you need to be worried about, because it definitely has that identity.
I think it's one of. Oh, go ahead, John.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was say I think it's that identity that really comes through in the DNA here. I think that's what makes this, I think, such a compelling option. You know, it's something I would be, you know, totally shortlisting. Before this podcast, I wasn't totally aware of some of these compromises Alex points out, but it's still something I would look at. You know, I mean, it's interesting. It sort of does a lot of things I would like it to do. Yeah, I mean, I know you had a school of thought a while ago that you thought, what if Subaru went all plug-in? Just as like a thought exercise. Obviously they won't, they probably shouldn't, but it's like, I do think more and more of a green sheen, if you will, is the right move for them.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, you think of the stereotypical Subaru owner, and you know, you think of crunchy granola hippies, and but you know, it's people who like to spend time outdoors, and you know, these people are more, they're probably thinking about the environment more than someone driving, you know, some other brand of all-wheel drive crossover. And so I think a lot of Subaru owners actually do care. I, for one, was a Subaru owner, and I would have loved to have gotten. I don't have a car of my own right now that I daily drive, but you know, I would have wanted my next car to be something with a plug, and I definitely would have, you know, put the Crosstrek Hybrid at the top of my list because it's available. If that weren't available, I'd be looking at other brands first thing. I'd be looking at probably a Nissan Leaf. I really like that car. Or something like the Chrysler Pacifica, or, you know.
I wish the Model 3 was more practical, because I keep seeing them around town, and I really think they look awesome.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, the value compared to like the Leaf or the Crosstrek Hybrid, I know a little bit of apples to oranges here, but I mean, I don't think it's unreasonable to at least kind of look at these if you were like sort of making a spreadsheet of choices.
Mm-hmm.
But man, the price on that one gets up compared to like, you know,
for sure.
Hybrid.
Yeah.
You know, I'll say this. I think Subaru, when they, you know, I know they just introduced an Outback, but when they do an Outback again, I could see them further differentiating it from the Legacy, putting it on even a more unique platform. And if they sold a full EV Outback, like, I think people would buy it. I don't think it'd be a huge part of the mix, but you know, if they, I mean, it seems like it's already slightly more of a premium product. It's already sort of targeting the lifestyle brand people that are going to be interested in plug-in vehicles and in sort of green issues and in that sort of consciousness. I think that'd be amazing. And also, it would get rid of, in my mind, the biggest Achilles heel of the actual Subaru driving experience right now, which is the CVT. That's in a lot of their products. Because if it's an EV, you don't have that. And, you know, the Crosstrek Hybrid, without a CVT, drove great, especially in electric mode. I was like, man, you know, if the Impreza just had this, if it was a series hybrid or something like that instead of it'd be so much more interesting to me than just the efficient. It's got good space utilization, but man, that CVT with the naturally aspirated engine is a real dog. So I would love an EV Subaru.
I like an EV Outback. I would buy that tomorrow. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
That would be perfect as far as fitting my current needs. Yeah, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe their global architectures are compatible with electric architecture. I don't know if they've totally confirmed that, but I believe it's either they're compatible or they could be compatible, you know, looking at all of the PR speak. So it seems to me that like Subaru has sort of telegraphed, maybe not what they're going to do like tomorrow, but soon. So I think this could be in their future. And I mean, I think it'd be the right move for them.
Yeah, as a growing brand, they're growing as fast as they are. It's something that is feasible now that probably wasn't 5 years ago. It wouldn't have been in the plans, but they're growing so fast and gaining such a following that it is something that they could absorb at some point soon.
So before I drove in the Forester, I did not have granola. I thought about granola, which I have, but I actually had a fried egg, which I fried lightly in olive oil. So it wasn't crazy fried, on a piece of white French country toast and with an avocado in there. So I don't know how that fits in the Subaru mantra, but I mean, hey, I've been up since 5:30 in the morning. I needed some protein and some carbs. So, hey. Speaking of green cars, though, the Taycan revealed this week. Huge deal. Got a lot of play on our site. We have some pictures, obviously, of the car, but also some up-close shots of the interior. We had a good comparison with Tesla on there, written a couple days ago. So definitely check out all of this coverage. It's really cool. It's really immersive. Alex, I know you did a little work on the editing. I want to bring you both in here. But kind of give us the nuts and bolts, first of all, there, Alex.
Sure. So the first thing, which is setting the internet afire, at least among our peers, the people I follow a lot of other auto writers on Twitter, and man, everyone's pretty upset that they're calling it the Taycan Turbo and Turbo S, because obviously, to be pedantic here for a second, you can't have a turbocharger unless you've got an internal combustion engine. So it's one of those things where we're mad at companies for abusing words. And these are the same companies that have been perverting the word coupe for, 5 or 6 years now. So I don't know why anyone's surprised. Words don't mean anything anymore. Get over it. We're in the post-word definition world. And, we should all just deal with it.
And turbo hasn't meant turbo machinery for a very long time. I mean, yes, in cars, like a turbocharger, yes. It's turbo mechanics, but I mean, we use turbo for everything.
TurboTax.
TurboTax. Greg Racer was eating turbo tots, and I asked him if they spun around in his mouth, and he said no. But they, were like stuffed with cheese and stuff, and delicious. I'm okay with it. I am completely okay with. I'm not going to get my panties in a twist over
I love how Twitter lost its mind, though. And then, Elon Musk chimed in, and then people were trolling him, and it's just it was a good day not to actually be on Twitter.
We should probably can this part of the discussion, because the important thing is that the car looks, from a spec perspective and from a sheet metal perspective, it's really, really compelling. So if I can dive in for a second, it's a 2-motor EV. Both the S and the Turbo and the Turbo S make 616 horsepower. They have an overboost function, which I don't feel like we really got a good sense of what that is. I couldn't figure out what the duration of it was, but for some period of time, the Turbo can make up to 670 horsepower, while the S can send 750 horsepower to the wheel. I don't know if that's a hardware limitation or what, but those are the numbers. 0 to 60, 3 seconds for the Turbo, 2.6 for the Turbo S. It'll do the quarter in up to 10.8 or as low as 10.8 seconds. That's pretty crazy. There's a lot of numbers, but I think it's important. It's a 93 kilowatt hour battery. Let's see, we don't have an EPA range figure yet, but you can kind of do the math on it. Probably right around 200, 220, something like that. And it should handle pretty much like a Porsche. People are saying that the Model S's numbers are better than this, and that's obviously a matter of debate, and that's something we can talk about. But my take is this is a car designed to do something different than the Model S. It is designed to be a sports car experience, and that means that its straight line acceleration numbers might not be as good. It means its lateral numbers might be better. But the important metric is, and we should say this over and over again, the numbers don't matter. It's how the car drives. Do you enjoy it? That is it's why the Miata is our perennial favorite. The numbers look like crap on paper, but it's so much fun to drive. And the question is going to be, is it worth the premium? Because these are expensive. I think they start at $153,000. So it's expensive. Not super expensive for a Porsche, considering where it sits in the lineup. Sort of an alternative to the Panamera, a little bit smaller. But, they basically said this was an expensive platform to develop, and it's priced as a premium platform. We think there'll be lower cost, lower spec versions in the future. But yeah, I mean, it's like the 4-seat 911 of EVs is the way to think about it.
Which I love. I love that idea. Porsches are some of my favorite cars to drive. The 911 is one of my favorite cars to drive, period, of all time.
Yeah, totally.
And
agreed.
And but I also love electric cars, and if you can combine everything I love about electric cars with everything I love about Porsche, from styling to driving dynamics to technology and interior, it's gonna be great. This has the potential to become my all-time favorite car. We'll see if I get a chance behind the wheel, but gosh, I've talked to some folks at Porsche over the past couple of years, and they've just assured me that this is going to be typically Porsche. They say that those two words over and over and over, and I believe them from what I'm seeing here. And it just I can't wait to drive this. I'd much rather live with this and its interior, and all the things the Porsche brand brings than with the Model S. Frankly, I love the Model S, but this is awesome.
I think too, this is sort of like the gathering storm that we've been waiting for. Tesla's kind of had the space largely to itself for quite a few years now. Have other people done electric vehicles in different shapes and forms? Of course. But there seldom has been one that's like as cool as a Tesla. Well, what's as cool as a Tesla? Probably a Porsche. Mm-hmm. And enter a vehicle like this. Granted, the price is very heady, but I think this is something that's going to literally change some opinions. It's going to change some of the way people think about Porsche. I think, it's awesome how it looks and the specs. Obviously, we can't wait to drive it and see how it measures up. But, as you look at things like what Jaguar is doing, some of, the other, even the Chevy Bolt, all these things are now either on the market or they're getting here, or vehicles like the I-Pace. And suddenly I think what's going to happen is you're going to see consumers, maybe they won't be able to get the Model S or the Model 3, as easily as they'd like. Maybe you live in a state where Tesla is fighting, over franchise laws, and it's harder to get one. You start to look around and you're like, well, wait, I could get something else. Oh, and it costs this much. And oh, wait, there's still tax credits available on this. Okay. And I think that's where you're going to see Tesla's. I think there's almost this perception that Tesla has a lead, and I would argue they don't as far as the development. And I would also say that, as the market matures, it's going to be good for Tesla because I think the rising tide is going to, carry all boats, if you will. But I think you're definitely going to see, the marketplace become much more splintered.
I agree with everything you're saying. I think, in my mind, Tesla's biggest liability right now is that the cachet might wear off. In my mind, the biggest selling point is Tesla made EVs cool. That is no small feat. Right. They put EVs in the luxury space. They made them objects of desire. But if at some point they become uncool, which kind of just happens organically, suddenly, we wake up one day and Tesla's not cool anymore. I think they're in real trouble because what they don't have is the ability to iterate product like, say, Porsche. I mean, Porsche's got, 70 years of chassis development experience. They've been building sports cars from day one. This is their first shot, right? imagine what the next one's going to look like. They're going to take all the lessons they learned from this, and they're going to iterate. And they've got the ability, they've got a lot of resources, they can move quickly, and they can break things without breaking the company. You know, Tesla, if I want to be unfair, this is a dig. You know, they're like building cars in a tent next to the factory because they don't have their production line issues sorted out. At some point, something's got to give. And I want to see Tesla succeed. Honestly, American company making desirable electric vehicles. But at some point, they're going to have to figure this out. The Model S needs an update. They're going to have to get Model 3 quality control figured out. They're going to have to actually build and sell Model Y and Roadster. They're going to lose a bunch of face. All of these new EVs from the big manufacturers are just turning the screws. And I think Elon and team need to start drilling down now on that product plan for the future. Otherwise, it's going to be too late. And they're going to have ancient product on sale. The Model S is already pretty old.
Yeah,
I can't believe it's still desirable, honestly.
I think it's the Tesla crossover. And I mean, I think a lot of their buyers are just like, hey, I want a crossover. Here it is. This is the right size. I think you do get a different kind of consumer, one who is thinking green in Tesla first and second, and then car third. And I think that's where maybe it's just like, in some way, Tesla's image is so elevated right now that they can sort of like it hangs in there and nobody realizes that the car is, several years old. All right. So speaking hybrids, let's talk about the first Lamborghini hybrid. How do you think this is pronounced? The Sián?
I like to think it's pronounced Sean.
Sean? Like
I'm sure that's not it.
Irish car?
Probably Sián or something. I don't know.
Yeah. But it looks amazing. Yeah. I mean, I think it's kind of cool that Lambo's dipping its, toes into this area. They're not going to make a ton of these. It's probably going to be a riot to drive. Yeah. I mean, it's cool. I mean, it's basically taking the naturally aspirated V12 and, giving it some hybrid tech, which keeps the V12 kind of relevant for a little while longer anyway. Pretty cool. I think, in our story, we kind of write that the Urus is most likely going to be, another, the next step, if you will, in Lambo's hybridization, which I think is logical. But do check out the story and the pictures by Ronan Glan, one of our European correspondents. Real quick, though, what do you guys think? We'll start with you, John.
It's a baby step, but it's a baby step. I'm glad to see them take. It looks very Lamborghini, and it's going to be super fast, of course. 2.8 seconds from 0 to 62 miles per hour. Top speed, more than 220 miles per hour. So this is gonna be impressive. I'm looking forward to when they actually start getting serious about electrification, though. This is just like a toe in the water.
I think what's cool about this are the head and the taillights. Some nice design cues from the recent. There's some concepts you might see up front with those sort of like Y-shaped lights, and then in the back you see, you dip a little farther back in history and you see some, elements there from like cars from the 70s. But Alex, what do you think?
I'm glad to see Lamborghini playing with supercapacitors in particular. Yeah. Because in my mind, that strikes me as a sort of nonconformist, like a way for Lamborghini to be playing with this technology in sort of like an exotic way. And I hope they develop that further. And it'd be kind of cool to see a car where its primary like burst speed is supercapacitor based, like maybe it's charging that throughout the day, and then you have a, push to pass kind of blast of Lamborghini is all about showing off. And I think if they need to make the electrification aspect part of it, the showing off aspect, in order for it to make it work. Does it make the company that green? No. I mean,
not really.
It's a drop in the bucket. You know what? I honestly don't care. I think they can play with it a little bit, but Lamborghini is such a small part of the it's a rounding error of a rounding error in the overall picture of, what cars are doing to the planet. So I think they should be doing it because it pulls everybody else up. If they're getting into it, it makes it attractive to other people. But like, who cares in my opinion, who cares what's coming out of a Lamborghini's tailpipe? There's like, 1,000 of them built a year, 2,000 a year. It's not that big of a deal.
I will say this, it does get the word Lambo and hybrid in a headline together.
Yeah.
So most people aren't going to read that they're making 63 of these things.
Yeah.
So, they'll read the headline, they'll read the comments. So goes the modern media, sadly. And, that's all, a lot of people will know, and that's cool. And the people who do buy them will pay a ton of money for them. So it is kind of a win-win for Lambo.
Yeah, and they're already sold out.
yeah, there you go. They're sold out. Cool. So let's just go to the total other end of the segment. The Nissan Juke is coming back. It's a thing. Not coming back to the U.S., though, if you will. We just saw a refreshed version. This is for the European market. I don't know. I mean, I guess the bigger question is, how do we feel about the Juke in general? Do these new pictures change anything? What do we think?
I know. I liked the Juke, and I was sad to see it go, and I'm sad that the Kicks is what replaced it here. So this whole thing makes me a little sad, but I don't know. I liked the weirdness of the interior of the old one. This one is it's looking pretty bright. Lots of colors. I think I liked the old style a little better. It was just kind of funkier. They didn't need to get more conventional with it, but
Alex?
I think it's well tuned to the European market. I mean, if you kind of squint, this could be a Citroën or something, or a Seat. I agree with John. I don't think it's as edgy as the original Juke. This feels like original TT to second generation TT to me. It's like maybe some models need to live for one generation and then die. That said, it's only in Europe. It appears that it sort of matches European tastes. Would I like this better than the Kicks? I don't know. The Kicks has a unique appeal that it's incredibly cheap. So I don't think they could make this as cheaply. They put some money into the interior. So
yeah,
it's the Kicks is like the Versa of little crossovers. It's just there to move people around, and I think that's fine. But yeah, I like the Juke was one of my favorite Nissans. Mostly because I just like it when things are a little different, a little unconventional, a little color, a little pizzazz. I guess that's not what American Nissan buyers want anymore. So there we are.
Yeah, makes sense for the U.S. I mean, which would I rather drive? Probably the Juke, just more interesting. But I mean, so it goes. Let's wrap up news here, though, with Aston Martin, and we'll link the word Ian Callum. Kind of interesting, former Jaguar designer who retired, and we knew he was going to probably be setting up his own sort of shop. He did sort of reworked the iconic Vanquish. Looks pretty good. I think it's interesting to see that he's, not interesting, but it's good to see that he's still obviously, not retiring. He's still going to be out there doing things. Aston's going to build a limited version of these. I want to say 25 of these. So, very, bespoke product. It's a very cool thing, I think.
Yeah.
John doesn't? This is good. We should disagree on some things.
I respect Ian Callum as a designer. I don't know, something about this Vanquish 25 seems a little off to me.
It looks like there's a bunch of stuff tacked onto it, right?
Yeah, it does.
It's been through Callum's Pep Boys shop.
Because, that's the image he's going for here. Callum's Pep Boys. Sounds like a good affiliate link strategy for us.
He's the fourth Pep Boy.
But yeah, I mean, it's a little busy. It's not quite as, sleek. I mean, as the old Vanquish, I don't know. It didn't need this. I don't think. I don't think it needed Callum's touch.
I could see that for sure. They like anytime you do get these designers like Fisker, I want to say he tuned a Mustang a while ago at the LA Auto Show. It's just like, or it was like a Mustang inspired car. It's like, what are you doing? The car is pretty good as it is, like the factory designed it the right way. And, you're just kind of like adding things, it's sort of like wearing cufflinks when cufflinks aren't required for the occasion. I don't know, Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, I what we were saying earlier, I was being a little unfair, but I think, my take on this is it was a clean design, and then this has just been farkled. It's covered in farkles, and the white letter tires and it just seems distasteful, and it's really weird because I think Callum's known for just clean, organic, voluptuous designs, and this is like putting a bunch of frosting on that. I don't like it. That being said, it's a limited edition Aston. People with that kind of money, maybe their sense of style and taste is a little different than mine. I think depending on your viewpoint, it could be a major success. But is this what Callum's going to do now? He's just going to kind of make sort of reimagined versions of existing Aston cars. That maybe that's what he wants to do. To me, that sort of sounds like a sad afterlife. I don't know. I hope I'm not being too negative, but like I'm a little down on this because this does not seem like a cool thing for him to be doing. But that's my opinion, and it's all subjective. So
no, that's we're kind of all over the spectrum on this, and that's good. I think it is interesting when you're a rock star, if you will, and then. I don't know, you wrote Thunder Road in 1975. Well, what do you do next? If say you're Bruce, and I mean, I don't think it's a stretch to say, Ian Callum in the design world is in that sort of, level. So it's tricky. I mean, the Vanquish is arguably, it is one of his designs because Aston was part of, the Ford luxury stable back then. I know he kind of takes credit for it. So it's tricky, I think. I mean, what do you do next? You see this with musicians, with football coaches, with all sorts of different people, it's like after you leave that, like the thing that's going to be like, on your tombstone, if you will, what's your next act, And
this is a remastered greatest hits album, and that's,
no, you're exactly right. That's what it is. Because this is a greatest hits and it's like, hey, let's go back and play them, in an acoustic way instead of how everybody imagines them in their head.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure he'll have more things up his sleeve that will probably be awesome, but it's an interesting talking point. Cool. So we'll leave it there. That is news. Next, we're going to talk about what's going on in the video game stream. We're going to bring in our producer of the podcast, Erik Meier, to talk about WRC8.
Hey, everybody. My name's Erik. First of all, thanks for having me on the show, guys. I've been editing and producing the podcast for a little while, but I think this is my first ever time actually being on here.
Except for, your intro song.
Very true, very true, very true. But I'm here today because I've been playing a video game called WRC8. I wanted to talk about it a little bit because I really, really like it. When you're listening to this, depending on when, it either will be out or it will be out soon. It's currently out on PC and it'll be coming out on Xbox and PlayStation, on September 10th. So really, really soon. We've had the opportunity to play it, a little early, which is, super nice of Big Ben Interactive, the developers of the game. And I put a fair amount of time into it, and I've been really loving it. So I don't know about you, John, but for me, I've never been the biggest fan of what people would call sim racers.
Yeah.
Historically, I like arcadey type racers. A lot of times they're a little easier to handle. The emphasis is more on just have fun. It doesn't have to be super realistic.
Yeah, this one seems like it's a lot more challenging.
It absolutely is. And so it's surprised me how much I really kind of love it, because I'm just not used to that level of precision in a racing game. One of the things I love about it, and it's also something that's frustrating in a good way, is that you cannot, it demands focus and it demands precision. So I guess I should say, if you're not aware of what WRC is, that stands for World Rally Championship. This is a rally racing game. So you're racing all the time down super, super tight corridors, hairpin turns everywhere. You're on gravel, you're on snow, you're on asphalt. It's all over the place. And each one of these things kind of represents a different challenge in the game. Like I was saying earlier, is when you're really, it feels great when you're really flying and you like hit a turn perfectly, and that all feels great, and then it all kind of comes crumbling down the second you make even the tiniest little mistake.
Yeah.
And you run straight into a guardrail or something like that, and then you get a time penalty, and it hurts your time. But man, it's so addictive, because the first time ever that you really want to, or the first time ever that you really like nail a run, in a special stage in a rally, or even really if you just nail like a good turn, like one single turn, you feel awesome. Like it really makes you feel really awesome.
Yeah, I was watching you play some, and it looks super challenging. There's different. There's a skill tree sort of element to it, where you're sort of leveling up certain aspects of your.
Yeah, so that's another interesting thing about this game. I should put a little caveat here. Some people listening, you might be familiar with a game series called Dirt. They make the Dirt rally games and the original Dirt 1, 2, 3, 4. So apparently similar types of games. I personally have never played the Dirt rally games.
They're also pretty challenging.
Yeah, no, I would imagine so. And to be honest, I'm kind of excited to go try them, because I've been enjoying this game so much. It's like kind of open up this whole new genre to me. It's opened my eyes to this new exciting genre that I really enjoy. But as for the skill tree you mentioned, it's really cool. There's a career mode in WRC 8, and there's like a classic, like a Final Fantasy style skill tree that you can use to upgrade your team. And there are different sections in the tree that you can upgrade. So you can either upgrade your like you can hire like a financial manager, or even what I thought was really kind of funny and cool is you can hire on to your team a meteorologist.
Yes.
Because your meteorologist will give you a higher percentage of correctly predicting the weather for the races, which allows you to make more informed decisions about the types of tires.
Yeah, it was funny watching Joel like ditch the meteorologist and then get just nailed every race with the wrong tires.
Yeah, so we've been streaming this game on the Autoblog stream on twitch.tv/Autoblog. We do that every Tuesday and Thursday at 2:00 Eastern time. So we've been streaming this game this past week, and I was streaming with Joel, and he was very anti-meteorologist. I was surprised. I think the meteorologist is very helpful for anyone listening who has given this game a try. But yeah, so in the career, the skill tree, it allows you to branch off. I mean, it's hard to, there are so many, it is a hardcore skill tree. It's not like, oh, here's like 4 or 5 things and then you're maxed out. It's like, no, there are dozens.
So is there's a career mode?
Yes.
Is there like an online mode?
Yeah, there is. So there's a lot of really modes. There's a lot of modes that I really kind of appreciate, because there's the career mode, which is super challenging. Like it is like if you do bad in 2 races, your team drops you and it's game over, buddy. Sorry, try again. Like it's like pretty brutal. But then there's a season mode, which is similar to career mode, but it takes away all of the team management aspect of career mode. So it's really just focusing on the racing. So if you're listening to this, if you're interested, but you don't care about team management at all, you only care about the racing, jump into season mode. That will definitely be the mode for you. There is also online multiplayer, and what was really surprising and exciting for me is there's a pretty fantastic split screen multiplayer mode, which is unfortunately kind of a dying breed nowadays with video games, but I think it's if a game can have a split screen mode, it should, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because couch co-op is a lot of fun. I mean, it's fun to like just sit next to your friends and go head to head in a rally race. Yeah. What's really cool too about the split screen mode is and again, I didn't really know anything about rally racing before playing this game, but if you don't know, you're way more often than not actually racing head to head with like another car right next to you. It's more like time trial type things. But when you're playing split screen, you do actually, it imposes what's called the ghost of the other player onto your side of the screen.
Nice.
So it's really easy to keep up with like where you are in comparison to the person that you're playing with.
And you've been playing it on Xbox.
We've been playing it on Xbox. So I will say, I know I've been heaping a lot of praise onto this, but we discovered a few things in the past week. May or may not be specific to the Xbox version. We can only speak for the Xbox version. But, so despite the fact that I've been having a ton of fun with this game, unfortunately, there's been a few times, I put about 10 hours into it at this point. So in those 10 hours of gameplay, there's been a few times that like, it seems like this game was kind of built for PC. And so during some of the loading screens, unfortunately, it crashed our Xbox.
Yeah.
That's happened 3 times now.
God.
Yeah. So
that's something that could potentially be fixed with a patch or something.
Absolutely. And that's absolutely what I'm hoping. Like I mentioned off the top, this game actually isn't even out for Xbox and PS4 yet as when we're having this conversation. So that is definitely something that if it becomes a widespread issue.
Do you know when it comes out?
The 10th, September 10th.
Right.
It's out currently for PC.
Okay.
It came out on the 5th, I want to say, for PC. Either way, when you're listening this, it is absolutely out. And then consoles a couple days later on the 10th. But yeah, so that really is my only that's my only gripe is just those unfortunate shutdown issues. But as far as gameplay goes, I mean, it's really a lot of fun. There's a free mode where you can just kind of drive around, get used to the different cars, how everything feels. One of the reasons why it's beneficial to have a meteorologist is because the developers actually included something called dynamic weather in this game, where the weather can actually change like during a race. For each stage in a rally in this game, depending on where it is and what stage, some of them can take up to like 7-8 minutes for a single stage. And like I said, it's really like demanding your focus. You really have to focus in on it. I'm not going to lie to you, Jonathan. I completely forgot where I was going with that. But it's important to know that it's not the type of game that you can jump into and like, yeah, I'm going to play this for like 2-3 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, you won't. You definitely won't.
You got to commit to it.
Yeah.
Well, does it make you want to watch rally racing?
Yes, it does. It really does. It really does.
It is one of the more entertaining motorsports to watch.
Yeah, it's one of those things. So we will be having a review on this game next week, and in the review, I talk about how prior to this, and I mentioned earlier, even prior to this, I knew nothing Jon Snow about rally racing at all.
Yeah,
and I'm so into this game that like all I kind of want to do is just learn everything I can about rally racing. The extent of my knowledge is pretty much that Travis Pastrana did it back in the day, and he's cool. I like him. So I came into it, knowing that I generally liked the sport. I just didn't know anything about it.
Cool.
But yeah, this game has really expanded how much instantly expanded how much I know about the sport, and definitely expanded my interest in the sport. So it's something that I'm definitely going to continue playing. If you're interested at all in the game, we're going to be streaming it this upcoming week as well. So if you are listening to the podcast the day it comes out, or even a few days afterwards, check us out on twitch.tv/autoblog. We'll be streaming at 2:00, and we actually stream every week. It's not always WRC8, but we're always streaming racing games and driving games. We do Rocket League, we do the Forza games, really anything that you can drive around something, we'll stream it most likely. So that's a lot of fun. So I'll be streaming that next week if you're interested. If you have the game, and you want to play with us, tune into the stream, play with us. We play with users all the time, or we play with viewers rather, all the time, and it's a lot of fun. So hop on in. If you want to see the full review, check out autoblog.com next week for the full review on the game. But general thoughts, it's really, really, really ridiculously fun. Cool. I like it a lot.
Well, thanks for talking to us about it, and thanks for being our resident gamer and streamer, and thank you for producing this podcast.
Hey, I do what I can. Thanks for having me on the show. And I am going to throw it back to our fearless leader, Greg. So thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, Erik. Now it's time to spend some money. So the writer today has a pretty nuanced question, but it's a pretty good one. Within the next 18 months, he is looking to step out of the three-row segment. Currently drives an 06 Toyota Sequoia SR5. It's an old SUV. His wife drives a 06 Jeep Grand Cherokee with a 3.7 liter. So, they're definitely rocking some old SUVs here. Now, for 10 years, he has been thinking about three cars that are totally unattainable. He did try out an 08 Mercedes E350 4MATIC for the last 8 months. First German car. He says 8 months specifically because the car was wonderful for, get this, 7 months and 3 weeks. 7 months and 3 weeks. Then it became a money pit overnight. Very happy to sell the car. So that's one of his, basically, it's a little bit of context here, I guess, if you will. Plus, it was a little bit small. So here's what he's looking for. He says he's part of a dying breed that still likes sedans. I like sedans. Budget is about $22,000. So here are the choices. 2010 to 2012 Jaguar XJ or XJL. An 08 to 11 Maserati Quattroporte. Or a 2010 to 2011 Porsche Panamera S or Turbo. Basically lives in Western Michigan. Hey, how's it going? Not far from us here in the eastern side of Michigan. Travels a lot throughout the Midwest for his job. Always worried about the weather. Lots of different, ways he breaks this down, talking about the engine choices. But, some interesting ideas here. What do you guys think? Start with you, John.
Well, that's a tough one. I like the Jaguar XJ quite a bit, and I'm sort of leaning toward that. The Maserati, I mean, if you're getting out of an old car, you'd be getting into a car that feels old. And the Porsche Panamera would be awesome if you could find something within your budget. That seems tricky. But I really like the XJ. I think that's where I'm leaning. But yeah, Western Michigan, a lot of snow. It would be nice to have the all-wheel drive in a Panamera. But I'm going to say XJ.
Pass it over to you, Alex.
I'm just going to be honest. I'm having trouble with this question because he just said he had a nightmare ownership experience with a late model Mercedes. He says his absolute max budget is $22,000. That's kind of low to be looking at sort of late model luxury vehicles. All three of the vehicles he picked are not known for their ownership experience. They're known for having frequent, extremely expensive repairs. So, well, I mean, I would love to daily a cheap Maserati, but I can tell you right now, I can't afford to be taking it to the shop all the time, and I cannot afford. Parts. I mean, the cars might be cheap, but the maintenance is still luxury car maintenance. Yeah. I mean, you're ordering expensive ancillaries from Italy if you have the Maserati. You know, if it needs a rebuild, good God, it's going to be a $15,000 or $16,000 rebuild minimum. So, I would suggest very, very seriously considering what kind of budget you actually have for this vehicle. Get a cheap Maserati, sure, but you should have 10 grand in the bank just waiting for something to go wrong. You should be prepared to have it not be there a few days, a month, maybe a few months a year. I don't know. I just, and in that price range, for the Maserati in particular, you're looking at the automatics, which are not known for their reliability. The Quattroporte's single clutch was not a very well regarded unit. I think he's just going to be looking at old, tired versions of these cars that are going to have a lot of needs. And I'm not seeing that there's a budget built in to maintain these things. Like the issue with the Mercedes, he got rid of it. What happens when, he's got a loan on one of these and something really goes wrong? I'm concerned for him. This is out of concern. It's not out of a hatred for these vehicles. I love Jaguars. The first press vehicle I was ever in was a long wheelbase XJ. I think the Maserati V8's phenomenal. I would put up with a lot of BS to have a Maserati V8. I don't know, man. I'm thinking older Acuras, RLs or RLXs with the superhanding all-wheel drive, I think are going to check a lot of the boxes other than being exotic and European. They're going to be luxurious. Yeah. They're going to be affordable. They're going to never, ever, ever break. And they're going to be a phenomenal deal because no one wants an RLX. Like you could probably get 2 RLXs for $22,000.
The RLX is great too.
It's so underappreciated, and it is a little more boring and a little less exotic than these vehicles. But I don't know, man. I just don't know that you can check all those boxes at that budget. So that's my tough love take. I'm sorry. I just don't think this is going to work out for you. And I hate to be that guy, but yeah, I would feel bad if we said, get one of these with that kind of budget and those constraints and it caught on fire in your garage or something like that.
So he did ask for other suggestions. So it's a very legit answer to say none of the above and look at, column C. I think that's entirely reasonable. I mean,
is there anything European we would suggest? Because it sounds like he wants something European. He wants something quick and fun. RLX is not that. So, Greg, is there something that comes to mind that might be attainable for 22 grand?
I don't know. I think in this case, so what I would do from these three is I would probably take the Porsche, I think.
Yeah. Me too, out of the three.
Just from these three. And I'm with you, Alex. I love the XJ. I love that early generation of it. We actually hear it's going to go away. That Quattroporte, man, I don't know. Life in an 08 Quattroporte, I don't know. Budget another 22 grand for the repairs for that thing. But here's the thing, though. I do sympathize and get what he's trying to do. It sounds like he saved, a little bit of money. Enough that you can at least start to look at the listings of these things and know, hey, you could pay cash for it. Maybe, at the low end, but you could do this, and you like the idea, you like the design, you want to drive one of these cars. You're probably thinking of what this is like when the car is working, and I think, Alex, you're good to raise that kind of caution flag. These three in particular, there's probably going to be long periods where the car is either not working or there is an issue with it that's going to sort of hamper your, enjoyment and fair use of it, if you will. So I think, plus just looking at some of the listings, I'm seeing some pretty high mileage for these cars and prices are still not particularly low. So that's something to consider. I think, look at the Acura. That's a good move. I don't know. Is there anything else we're missing here we could throw on here? I think by default, the Porsche not probably, it would have, I think, the best quality of these three. I think it's a good looking car. The design hasn't changed all that much. So if you could get a 10 Panamera, I mean, you're not going to look out of date. Nobody's going to be like, look at that guy in that old Panamera. It's still a pretty cool looking car. I don't know. Are we missing anything here?
Well, here's the thing. He's currently driving a 2006 Toyota Sequoia lifted 3.5 inches.
I think I left that out. That's really cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. And it's, he says 212,000 miles, but ultra reliable. You want to sell that to us?
So Snyder's going to go with column number 5 here, which is keep your car or sell it to Autoblog.
That's actually pretty cool. But yeah, if you're done with it, you're done with it. I understand that. But but that is pretty cool.
I have a suggestion. It may be hard to find because I didn't make a lot of these. If he could find any generation of S8, Audi S8, that big, luxurious, exotic to some degree, understated, and I think any S8 it will be a collectible in the future. So I think, I'm not saying that it'll necessarily retain value or appreciate, but I mean, none of these cars are. The reason he's looking at them is they've fallen into the very bottom of the depreciation trough. I would trust an S8 to be a little more reliable and a little more well-built than any of these options, except maybe the Porsche. But it could be a good alternative. I say that knowing with any of these vehicles, I would want to see, I'd want to look at a one-owner vehicle with a briefcase full of records. I think buying any of these from a used car lot is a terrible idea. So if he wants to get any of these, the Panamera included, have it pre-inspected by a specialist, make sure you're buying from a private party that has a lot of maintenance records, make sure it's well maintained and up to date on maintenance, because you fall behind on any European car, it's going to bite you in the butt. I mean, that's just, the reality is these cars were designed to be maintained to perfect specification in all throughout their life. Everything needs to be maintained. If you fall behind, other systems fail, it gets real expensive. So that's my advice.
It's a lot of choices here. I think it's one of those situations too where, I mean, it's nice to be at the point where, you do have a little bit of a pot of money here and you could think, what do you want to do with it? What kind of car would you like to try to, enjoy and, do with the next stage of your life? But I mean, I think your choices here are, it's kind of an interesting hand of cards. I guess you're sort of dealing yourself. So, let us know how it works out. I guess I'm a little sorry we weren't more helpful.
This is definitely one I want to hear back about.
Me too.
And if things change or something, it might be fun to revisit. But yeah, this is definitely a good one to follow up on.
Yeah. So just for the record, what was your recommendation, John?
I said of the three, I said that the Jaguar.
I went with the Porsche. Alex, you kind of went with none of the above.
But if it's got to be something on the list, by far the Porsche. Again, taken to a specialist with records and all that stuff, but it's going to be by far, I think, the best buy and probably the most enjoyable ownership experience of the three.
I think it's also one that's going to probably hold up the best too. It does. I mean,
yes.
And, from a design standpoint, it's not going to look dated. I think that Jaguar looked good back then. It still looks good. It's a great design, but that looks like a 10-year-old car, I think, at this point. And that Maserati is, kind of from another time at this point.
Clear of that one.
I think we're in agreement. The Maserati. Look out. So I guess we'll have to leave it there. Thanks for writing in. Please let us know what you think. If we get any more opinions, we'll let you know from around the office. But everybody else, thanks for listening. This is a bit of a long one, so maybe if you're doing some yard work this weekend, you're grilling, and then you have to walk the dog, well, now you have a couple more of your Autoblog, friends with you along for the ride. Be safe out there, and we'll see you next week.